Well, there are people that grew up near me and people tied to their extended family members who have been even pretend to try to went other ways. And they might trick them a number of ways too. That people I know in my family pretend to fake ties to me. Increasingly, Interbranch have been switching names with those people, and a bunch of people tied to them from other areas planted evidence on all sides of my house. These are people with campuses intercities, including fire departments and medical campuses, with Russians and American, Ukraine, Korea, all these countries with military families. They're jumping into our conversations dishonestly. They confess things that way. On Facebook, Facebook has people involved all along Route 3, Wells Road, even a Celeste Wells, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with investigators being and having been used remotely, criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions, raw. And a, a family named, it might associate with military, foreign and domestic, at the corners, at the side entrances to Mill Woods Park. A Kerr family and a Demore family, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also, they have people from other countries involved with their abuses of Heather Hansen. They said at the same time. I saw her there with Erica O'Donoghue, I think is his name. I never had a word of conversation with them. They're involved with people that may take their connections between people through life and with uses of it that were timed and recorded too. But people who had people take pictures of me near them or try to describe me by fake ties, fake nature ties, in sequence shifts, who also had collusions leading up to the World Trade Center attack intercities. That's on Route 3. There's also Mr. Neville. I never had a conversation with him. I had one sentence with him, asking him why he didn't give me back my poem. He has roles on Route 3 with interstates intelligence and people that put fake things in databases with my educators behind my back and with their educators behind my back. But with a couple of my educators, like a Miss Riley, is increasingly involved. There are people with the name Riley involved with Jewish theme, with the other countries like Israel involved, Palestine. They have all sides of over them because we like to be all sides. Get down. You guys are making confessions and lying about it. You have a people named former mayors and their family members and conjunctions to them, involved with former police chiefs too, involved with predicate acts on my campuses with names on my street, planting evidences, and where I lived in apartments, the same names are involved with intercities. This is all recorded. They're lying about their motivations. In other words, people with all these countries, a whole bunch of people with Mark Violet put fake nature ties to me. They try to make a picture of me near them to make it look like I knew them out of sequence too. They have rules with identity thefts and frauds with intelligence families near me. That will tell you they're just repeating what others said. I don't know them. Or they're just, all truths they're using for lies. Like one time I had to yell very violently for 3 days to get people to call the police without telling them why. See, they use truths for lies. They record that too. Then they want to debate it. Oh, bring us before the court. There are multiple courts, judges, prosecutors, their kids involved with the predicate acts and with the other countries and with the religious spots. All sides of a religious spot on Route 3 is also with foreign and domestic military, with a Robert Rodriguez, his roles with bringing up, he brought up the principal's child abusers campus. There's a Scalora family that has recorded the cousins per them of a Cololo family involved with a Phil Cololo is further involved with the principal upskirt nature. They per them, and he's in prison. I caught them with worse before that being forced. And they use digital crime methods and wire crime acts and methods. The police forms putting fake transcripts. Police forms, these are increasingly too federal criminals since before they were caught with their kids. In other words, even if it was all made up, there are people tied to the co-defendants. And as the co-defendants, a former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin. They have roles with foreign and domestic military with the spots next to the state capitol, including Fox Connecticut News, with increasingly people tied to journalists involved with sequence shifts and with their educators. Central Connecticut State University has collusions with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. A bunch of people and their families with New Britain Superior Court since I was a kid has something to do with their roles with intelligence and the police departments, plural, with the retired police chiefs from Wethersfield with the same house, and people tied to them involved with child abusers, leaders, and kids years apart, still forced. So you guys are separating subjects. And then you put fake things when you arrest people too. Then you fake motivations too. WTN people with the name O'Neill are increasingly involved with the World Trade Center attack and timed collusions with the Saudi attackers. These are also people involved with the Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University with Saudi Arabia and with other countries with exchange students and and people involved with Mark Violet and my neighbors with Ray Clough and ones that used to live in the area, like named O'Brien, and a bunch of people tied to them. I all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slander. They try to make a fake exception to me being known. They want to debate things before courts they already have collusions with. All sides of it's also people with the military, with the state corrections offices and judicial branch offices, and names in conjunctions to it and to that. Like Route 3 with conjunctions with the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut. They're involved with Facebook itself, with World Trade Center predicate acts, and with remote criminally foreign influence / hypercriminally foreign influence uses of the syntax regarding of that, uses of the names, the people's differences. They have readings of statutes that they already read criminally foreign influence, sequence shift, saying, do whatever at line. So at the last second, they give the benefit of the doubt to people based on their degree, etc. They already recorded with the Peruta family, with the Russians and Americans, with the fire campers, a bunch of fire department family members involved with the leasing agent and his kid too, with sexual circles per them too, with strippers and things like that. With that, we're planting evidences with some prosecutors and judges and their family members involved with families that work as intelligence at Central Connecticut State University, and some of them live next to it, like the Gill family and a Cologne family involved next to it. And they have roles with the other countries too. And they have roles that's in New Britain, Connecticut. They have roles with the names next to Trinity College. They have roles with the families that answer the phones for the police, involved with Wethersfield Police and more World Trade Center predicate acts, and pretended me being at the police station and speaking with them as a kid and then as an adult. Their motivations are need to cover up what I caught them doing too. Why you guys can't. This is relative. What I caught them doing with names that, like the Morrow family is increasingly with people that were at. I was in 1 year at a campus on Valleycrest Street in Wethersfield. Increasingly, people on Valleycrest Street have roles with a Harris family, putting fake things in databases, fake ties, fake nature ties to me. A whole bunch of intelligence families involved with a Ray Reynolds are also his educators. Have roles with medical crimes of kids and sexual offenders of kids, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, fake motivations, and with New Britain Superior Court intercities, and with the state corrections officers, judicial branch officers. They won't get onto paper because they've been putting fake paper in databases as collusion/S, only capable of being at all natures of crime scenes, at countries A through Z too. There are styles pretending other. Oh, we're directed to lie about that. No, they use the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. They have been showing fake transcripts and or the equivalent to presidents, including about with the news that is offensively obscuring their roles. WFSB has collusions with the military next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with the syntax with their stories regarding fire departments and the intercities. Their roles with the same house/S with extended family members involved with wedding forensics, also with Facebook and YouTube comments by Joshua Julian on the Facebook page of the campus of the principal obscure nature. He was putting fake ties to me, pretending I partied with him because my neighbor was making it look like that to my parents behind my back. I even know who he was friends with when he was a freshman. I had a girlfriend from another town. I thought it was only that. I thought it was okay, these people bonded or whatever, and I didn't know that. I still don't know that. I just know that these are increasingly people trying to take pictures and or describe things, and then you go before places, they're just making fake things up. They brought up the confessions with the Robert Rodriguez. I've never saw in my life until he brought up the principal child abuser, leader of kids. And his roles with nonverbal communications and confessions of a Kevin Dillon. He's also involved inter and intra-cities through time. A bunch of people with Mazzucato Bakery and Modern Pastry have sequence shifts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties, fake nature ties, and then they invest people into bullshit and sensibilities where they're going to leave things out when they bring people's names up. Increasingly, they have something to do with the roles with town line and the businesses that I don't know. I forgot the name of it again. I forgot to look for the name of it. There's a business diagonally across from a mobile gas station. And that mobile gas station, through the different owners, these are also people involved with my past neighbors with the name Cleesa, but then they use the name Lewis too, who are also people involved with some religious spots and the proven child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart. And they have mixed natures of organized crimes because there are methods of them mixed. Because a breaching method has methods of organized crimes. With its breaching method, reassignment of your black pupils' whites of eyes. For example, how I can discern this and show this to everyone. But you need to get the interbranch on the paper. Get me off the fake conversations ever with the police, older Mendez police brother, reportedly his brother, by others involved too, with home break-ins in my area. Since before they were police, they have roles with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, a whole bunch of different countries. They're not legitimately with their roles with the lost serials themed and the other on the networks and on social media, and with their roles with the names at Hartford Hospital. A bunch of people that work at Hartford Hospital and people tied to them and their family members and different natures of conjunctions to them. They were planting evidences and collusions with all kinds of natures organized in my crimes on my street since I was a kid. A Rick Cianfaglione was influenced by identity theft, fraud, slanders with a Brian Silver and a Leahy family that are increasingly involved with New Britain Superior Court, Hartford Courts, Connecticut's District Court, with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and courts themselves, like the inside the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center right before the attack. The panel of judges had been shown papers that they changed the sequence from inside the court. These are the same ones involved with the Saudi attackers and their rules with torture because they were shown they need to hide their rules with torture. How many kinds of delusions too they have with the principal treatments with American history and religious treatments, readings of it, at psychiatry involved. They're personally and professionally with foreign and domestic medical families and their patients too at the same time. Running into, they leave descriptions of things to keep that numb, stupid faith, incapable of getting on paper of the names of the people of sciences, including the law. All sides of criminal and civil cases, the lawyers, even the difference of their guilt formally with the law treatments or with their roles with the networks and the ad placements, Trantolo and Trantolo, increasingly involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, natures of federal evidences, crimes, with people interbranch refusing to identify themselves, involve time collusions with other natures of organized crimes, but as collusions with child abuses too, with the many families involved with the years apart, proven first forced child abusers, leaders of kids. So you guys like to keep subject treatments. Oh, but we have to have that hard blood, so the hard counter. If you do it right, you just have to pay attention. You have to just keep it care and it'll be right. In other words, then you say, oh, well, there's too many things. In other words, you guys are psychos. We make subject treatments because you have the things thing. And that doesn't mean someone gets angry. And that's why we have to have experts on the definite words that as they are defined in the dictionary. I'm not even a doctor. They're putting us to fake conversations with themselves. They have their family members with use of location /s, including increasingly Route 3 and people tied to this Donahue and the military and the teachers I never even had classes with. Increasingly, people with the name O'Connor have roles with foreign and domestic military. I never had there's a mother and a daughter, and they're both principals. And they were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed between the campuses involved with predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slams with the police that have been forcing sexual and medical offenders of kids, not legitimately with overt criminal enterprises, private ones too. We're gonna address how our founders demonstrated to us they didn't have free speech at the time. They had to leave declassified. Why and how? Which what nature shows us too. There are criminal enterprises, private ones, terrorists, and counters to all that as collusion/S. And then that has to hide it in the future too. Has to pretend it could speak about the future. Speculation, what to do. Has to use the value uses remotely by other/S. Their uses of their difference, their knowledge of good and evil. Oh, but we know about the fourth P3 operation system or the guns. In other words, bunch of cowards. Get them on paper. Get me off the fake conversations with the Mendez police brother. His brother, too. I barely know him. I never saw him on the inside of campus except one time. He's one of the ones involved with and that timing was one of the families, a Potter family, involved with the state judicial branch offices. Now, I don't know if they'll tell you that. They were just repeating things of others. In other words, they want to go back and forth about subjects and leave out what's actually recorded because they can't afford to go back and have what's actually recorded discerned. Increasingly, all along Route 3 through Wethersfield into Glastonbury. Glastonbury has a bunch of people tied to a Scalora family involved with the World Trade Center predicate acts and families that recorded. He said, too, when they were speaking through others, they tried to make it look like he knew me a couple times when I was a kid. He never went to a campus I went. And I never saw and had a word of conversation with a Mackenzie. There was a Kate Mackenzie. Everyone kept repeating the name of to me, tied to a Scalora. And the reason they were doing it because they wanted me to react syntactically and make it look like I know him. And they do things at corners, like at a corner. Increasingly, people at Trinity College and at Central Connecticut State University, intercity. That's Trinity College in Hartford, Central Connecticut State University in the Britain. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. A whole bunch of people, kids and adults. The kids demonstrated that there's an adult demonstrated that there's a Joshua Stryker and a Ray Colo and a Mark Violet. And there's a ones with the name Oliveri, also involved with houses and locations and conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices with predicate acts, and child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart, all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake things to use the right to that, but they don't. As they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, they have numbers of houses at the corner of Griswold Street and Fair Lane Drive involved with the syntax of the FBI and people with the witness protection program and a Joshua Stryker and involved with the ones at Trinity College with this Eric Oliveri, his educators, and ones with the name Zeno. He said the name Puzo was involved, which these are houses along Route 3 too. And there's the name Christine involved that they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and it was confirmed that is involved too. But I don't know if they even that's what they at Whiting Forensics they used the name Christine in their confessions. They would not show me the police report. These are people that were forcing the child abuser leader of kids with a harassment charge, where they wouldn't let me speak, and they kept saying making more confessions and then telling me to call back. And then leaving all kinds of messages, trying to plant more fake evidence as fake motivations too, no. And collusion/S. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, has a John Bean and has people tied to a Chris Walters and people with the name Spada involved with the intelligence community, and the judicial branch office, corrections office, foreign and domestic military, and people with the campuses, where they're making victims be victim predators. In other words, a whole bunch of people with Central Connecticut State University have collusions with the confessions of a Spada family tied to and people at Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, are increasingly and were increasingly involved with predicate acts with fax methods at the databases at the campuses we all went to. It's recorded that they're using people that weren't even in my classes to jump on, like in social media, to pretend passions and emotions, where they use the right to lie, where they don't have the right to lie, and they're making confessions and pretending other. The WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves at the same time. Their location is conjunctive to Route 3. They increasingly have wire crime acts and methods with people at and next to the state judicial branch offices, in conjunctive to it and to that involved. And as the ones involved, intercities, with time collusion /S with the confessions on my street, people trying to put fake ties, fake nature ties to me, people who recorded how investigators are used remotely, criminally foreign influence /hyper criminally foreign influence. I'm not learning up to be a lawyer. We have black pupils, whites of eyes. All guys, please get them onto paper. Please have Judge Napolitano informed, because there are proofs. Whiting forensics and Fox News people have roles with WFSB just faking conversations, and the sources of WTNH have been planting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me at corners of streets. At the corner of the street of the principal being child abuser too, with people with Russians and with the name, with the confessions of little kids involved. But it was in a context to make it look like on a school bus, to make it look like we ever had a conversation. These are increasingly people with the Institute of Living on the campus of Harvard Hospital that I just noticed too. I noticed through time too. They recorded themselves with collusions, intercities with names next to the campuses. They ran in as patients, even if there's some other investigator. All of them were investigators pretending to be patients. They have patients. One of them they said was named Pierce, and a person tied to another patient tied to him. He threatened to stab my eyes out as one of the ones involved with the Wethersfield police with wire crimes, with the police phones families that worked through them through time. A Smith family has roles with them, with their roles with the elements of undercover being the drugs and medicines, with the foreign and domestic military. Identity theft, fraud, slanders with them, per the Wethersfield police, and their roles with the confessions tied to the Phil Colo and a whole bunch of people tied to that corner. And a recent home break, a more recent, I believe it was this year, a home break in there that years ago had syntax from people involved with home break-ins and wire crimes of Wethersfield police. These are increasingly people collusions with the family members and co-defendants and neighbors of the family members of co-defendants, a former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, in a 2006 district court case. And right before that, long term before it, and since, Fox Connecticut News is recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming, also with silence, they will not follow mandated law, but as collusion /S. And I told them, I could help them. In other words, and even not sue them. And the intelligence next to them, the difference of the guilt, the intelligence next to them. Increasingly, the locations and names of houses and businesses next to Harvard Hospital have collusions on my street. And even when I did stupid things, in other words, when I did that, there was a reason for doing that. That's why they can't get into paper years later. They're making confessions and pretending other. A former mayor, Gold, is increasingly involved with people from Russia and all these other countries with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and fire department. Their roles with fire department and medical campus. A whole bunch of fire department families ran in there because they have collusions too, with all natures of investigations, investigators, crime scenes, names next to them. Know how the network's always right next to crime scenes. The differences of guilt is right there, always having to be covered up because of the collusion singular that is manifest at countries A through Z. Here, Anthony, because this is way more than just with the black pupils, whites of eyes, collusion /S that we all can discern. Please learn who disbelieves. Get them on paper, one name in sequence. It is manifest that the identities of the names of the people, the sciences, including the law, their identity theft, fraud, slanders, self-value roles, right where no one self-values it. And so motivation, screening roles, styles, needs, natures, right there for the breaching method. Forgiveness is not to leave out the breaching method. The breaching method, for example, that nature itself and our founders communicated, that it had forced roles with its breaching method, replacing what nature communicates with black pupils, whites of eyes. And when nature is not only itself as criminal and citizens nature, which nature itself shows us. But you guys are preventing free speech too, so you could fish and steal from people and try to enforce. There's a method, the breaching method shows the identities of the law. They could make people sue. This breaching method needs names. It's recorded. Part of the World Trade Center attack. Our names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the court's identity stolen for them by others. In this foreign and domestic, what motivated that is recorded, tied to how I went to a kindergarten 1 year on Valley Crest. And, they put earmuff on my thing, had me look out the window, lied about why. I'm the only one who knew the answers, too. Ugh. And I kept my hand. But that's a Harris family is one of the ones involved with that. And there are more people involved with the news locations who have roles with medical and sexual offenders of kids that are also roles with organized crimes, with the fake transcripts, with the agencies, and the military's roles with the medical the wrong ways. It's concentrated their roles with the military next to the state capitol and adding a Violet family is involved. I never saw them around campus. They try to make real quick exception and make fake other. These roles with and continuing confessions and demonstrations of their collusions with an O'Brien family and with a Collusions family and people next to the state capitol. I don't even know their names. They know mine. There's a guy they said was named Joe. In other words, and there's a Joe DeMoro that looks a lot like he's a brother, one of the brothers of a John DeMoro, involved with some rape, confessions, and demonstration. Even though I was made it up, in other words, that's recorded also involved with the names that are of the police that faked conversations with me, and me being at the police station. They faked it as a kid, now as an adult. Then to cover that up, they faked it with the news. They had put me in faked conversations with themselves and with others, and about the World Trade Center attack, and while they were forcing a child abuser, leader of kids, and while they were forcing collusions and wire crime methods, whole methods of them. See, this breaching method made collusions with its method. We're going to pay attention to what it's about, why a breaching method, and what it's about, how it's hyper evidential too. Where and how nature itself and our founders demonstrated there was a breaching method entrenched. There were roles with even slavery, northern colonies and southern. They wanted us to understand that clearly. The breaching method forced those roles only fathom because it was hurting each difference to keep everybody an extent syntactically of collusion against themselves and against everyone else. We have to remember this too when the negotiations are forced and or when they are not. Because both ways hurts us in use of the difference. We're going to observe this. And you guys are stealing from me. You guys are worse than extorting me. And you're lying about your motivations. And you're getting away with it because there's fake things in databases each year connected. We're going to observe this. You're going to follow mandate law proper. Get them on paper in the Americans. Now, and people of the world who disbelieve, someone help me get this interbranch on paper. I'll show you how to fix us A through Z.